President, at first, thank you to accept our to give us interview. We would like to ask you the first question: how the CHP evaluate the political situation in Turkey globally?
CHP is a Social Democratic Party, and our party is the founder of the state, Turkish state. The founder of the party is Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, who founds also the Turkish state. And since 1960s, CHP is the Social Democratic Party of Turkey, the main opposition party. And now in the parliament, we have 134 parliamentarians. During the AKP rule, for the last 11 years in the political level, CHP is criticizing AKP from the human rights perspective, from loss of democratic rights, and the economy is what AKP is doing. It's trying to do is they are during their rule they are getting some more businessmen being more and more rich, but the rest of the population, especially the lower income level population, is getting poorer. So this is our perspective, that we are criticizing the AKP government. And especially for the last 5 years, after the elections in 2007, AKP is breaking the principles that they promise before to the electorate, like the perspective of the European Union, for instance, like the foreign policy of Turkey. What they were saying to the electorate is, we will have no problems with our neighbors, so zero problem policy. But in 2013, we see that we have a lot of problems with all our neighbors, and they are also losing the perspective of the European Union, which principally CHP thinks that we should be the member of European Union. Plus, AKP is doing a lot of oppressive things. For instance, if you have a different understanding, religious understanding than the AKP rulers, this is one way that you are oppressed. The second one, if you do not have a daily life understanding than the AKP government, it is one way to oppress you. So all these things came together. And 1 month ago in Gezi Parkı, in the beginning it was a very environmentalist understanding, but then it turns to be the protests against the government. So the government should understand the real reason of the unrest in Turkey. But unfortunately, from the beginning of the Gezi Park protests, we analyzed that the government and the Erdogan, the Prime Minister Erdogan, couldn't understand anything from the protesters. They didn't even try to listen them, or they didn't even try to understand what they are really saying. So it seems that the AKP policies will go on as soon as they are in the government.
But some analysts and political say that Erdogan is the big winner of the protestation, because until now there is no protestation and all people are come home with any problem.
Unfortunately, this is a wrong decision, or this is a wrong analysis, because it takes 1 month. In the Turkish political history, we do not experience such kind of a long and non-organized protests. There were different, very different groups, very different ideologies, and most of the people are without any political background. They go to Taksim Square, they protest the government, and nobody put violence in this. It was quite peaceful, and all these protesters, under normal conditions, they couldn't come together because they have different views for politics. But during all these protests in Taksim, they were just behind each other. And this is, I mean, from this point of view, nobody win. Who lose is the government. Because in the last elections, in the last general elections, they get a vote of 50%. After 2 years, if millions of people are marching, are protesting you, it means that the 50% you get 2 years ago is not clear yet. When we look to the polls, the recent polls, none of the polls show that AKP government is still 50%. They decrease to 35 to 40% of the vote.
But at first it was not political revendications.
Yes.
It was just. But how you can explain that it became a political revendication as parties, as your party, they want to exploitation of this protestation?
You see, in the beginning, there was 100 people trying to keep the trees in the park in the first days. Then they put their tents and they begin to live in the, stay in the park just to keep the trees. Yeah. But after the violence of police, the violent oppression of the police, these 100 people begins thousands, then millions. And the Gezi Park protests in the beginning was limited with the park. Then it takes all Taksim Square, then it takes all the cities of Turkey, then it takes all over the world.
You want to say that the political reason, the CHP, they came to protestation a big dimension?
No, I mean, we are not the organizers of these protests.
Yeah, of course.
We do not organize this.
Yeah.
But me personally support it.
Yeah.
Or other political figures in Istanbul or in Turkey, they support it. During all these protests, yes, you see, in the beginning, it was just an environmentalist action. We were supporting in the beginning also, me personally, supporting it, because what they did in the park is illegal. But after that, if somebody wants to protest this illegal action, and if you, the police, goes on them with a very violent way. So all of us are human beings. We do not want any peaceful demonstration to be oppressed by the police that much. So it is the beginning of the protests to be a more political way.
but on the other hand, there are many people, or they come to the streets, support the Erdogan government.
Okay, I mean, this is normal. There are somebody who is supporting the Erdogan government.
And he was elected democratically, no?
Yes, I mean, but you see, democracy doesn't mean only elections. If you, I mean, why people vote for you? They want you to rule the country in a proper way. But if you begin to touch my daily life, if you begin to change me, if you begin to change the Turkey's political situation among the world, people can say no. Even some of them, some of the protesters are AKP voters.
But sorry, why the people, they elected again the same government, the same party, the APK is in the government 11 years.
But you see, during these 11 years, in the beginning, in 2002, it was the first elections that AKP came to power. What they were promising to the people was different. They promised to the people freedom, a better economy, the less positioning of the army. So they were talking against the statu quo, which was in 2002. In 2007, after 2007, so it's a critical election. After 2007, they begin to create their own statu quo. Okay, we do not want the army's statu quo, but we do not want the AKP statu quo at the same time. All the people think like this. And in the beginning, what they were promising the people was freedom, freedom of rights, freedom of press, freedom of belief. But in 2013, there is no freedom of press in Turkey. There was millions in the squares, and most of the televisions were not showing it because they were afraid from the government. So some of the protesters go to the buildings of these media broadcasting companies, and they begin to protest them.
About the army.
Yeah.
But we know that Africa has a good relation now with the army, but there is no the same conflict. Do you think that the army is against, is support the government?
You see, all the generals are attended by the government for the last 11 years.
Africa.
I don't understand, Africa.
The government.
Yeah.
The party of Africa.
Yeah, AKP. Okay. Okay, you see, for the last 11 years, AKP government attend all these generals. So we do not care generals support the protesters or the others. We don't care this. We just protest. We don't care what army thinks. Because army, from our point of view, army should be out of the politics. And nobody is trying to make an undemocratic demonstration. If there is a democracy, people have the right to demonstrate. So there is no word for army, or there is no word for the government.
Do you think that the government wants to exploit the army?
You see, why I said that AKP is trying to build their own statu quo is they are trying to affect the army. They already did. Till army is out of politics, till that positioning, there is not a problem for us.
Right.
But if they want to change the army from their point of view, so it means that you are trying to create your own statu quo. The same is for the judiciary system. The judges.
Yeah.
The judges are not independent in Turkey, unfortunately. The prime minister is saying something from the television, and the other week, the judges decide according to his point. So about judges, universities, army, press, all bureaucracy, AKP is trying to control everywhere. We want, the people want them to rule the country, but they try to control everything and everywhere. So the main understanding of the protesters was that, don't touch my daily life. Don't try to control everything. I don't want your control.
But the AKP want to judge the army, some of generals in justice. But
there are files about the generals, about the parliamentarians, about political figures, about intellectuals, about journalists. There is, unfortunately, Turkey is one of the countries that, in the first 3 rank in the world, that much journalist is in the jail. The second one, 8 parliamentarians are in jail. How can we explain this? Not only CHP parliamentarians, but from MHP, from the Nationalist Party, and from the BDP, from the party who is from close to the Kurdish nationalists. So 8 parliamentarians are in jail for the last 2 years. Since they are elected, they are still in the jail. So how can we explain this?
Let me ask you another question. There are some analysts who say that what is happening in Turkey is the conflict between Islamists and laik. means and Atatürk's ideologies. It's conflict between the Turkey modern and the old Turkey. It's the conflict between the Turkey who wants by Islamists, by the hijab, by the and the people who want to live alone to all this problem of the Islam. And do you
see,
think that there is a real conflict?
You see, there is a conflict about Islamists, Islam as an ideology, and the laicist groups. But this is not the main case in the Gezi Park protests. For instance, there is a group in Turkey, their name is Anti-Capitalist Muslims. They were supporting the protests in Gezi Park. They go there, it was Friday, and they make Juma namaz, but still they are supporting these protests. There are a lot of conservative people. They also support the Gezi Park protests. I mean, during the Gezi Park protests, it was not the main case that the main conflict is between Islamists and the laicist groups.
It was among the cases.
It is one of the cases, yes. I mean, some people go there because they think that these AKP government have a root of Islamization of the country to make a more conservative country. They protest this. Some others go there because AKP government is anti-environmentalist policies. They protest this. Some others, they protest the dictatorship, what they call.
We said about the conflicts. It means the laicist and the Islamist and modern and old Turkey. What I want to say exactly, it means that how do you see Turkey from years for 10 or it's 5 days, 5 years? Sorry, if the Islam began the first the Mongol religion here in Turkey, about the conflict, the real conflict between the
you see, Islam
hijab, adhan, mosques,
look,
and traditions.
I understand. Islam is not the first religion like 99% of the Turkish people 5 years ago or 10 years ago. For thousands of years, Islam is the main religion in Turkey, in this territory. But there was no Islamist, laicist conflict before. Why? Because somebody, the AKP government, is trying to make the Turkish people, the ordinary people, the daily life of the people, more and more conservative. So there's a reaction to this. For instance, they are strictly putting some bans on alcohol usage. They put extra taxes on alcohol. Plus, they try to change the education system. I mean, they are not trying to liberate the education system. They are trying to make it more conservative. So, in Turkey, everybody doesn't need to think like Erdogan. There are different beliefs in Turkey. There are Christians in Turkey. There are non-believers in Turkey. There are Alevi population in Turkey. And there are Sunnis who doesn't believe the Erdogan's view. So you cannot try to change me. Just rule the country. That's all. I mean, why people vote for AKP is try to rule country, the economy, and don't touch my daily life.
It means that the AKP and Erdogan, they are opposite of all principles of Turkey that Atatürk found.
I mean, according to what they say, they are not against. But according to what we see, according to the practice, yes, they are against most of the principles.
They are not the principles of Atatürk, of Turkey.
Not only Atatürk. I mean, Turkey has traditions at the same time, political traditions at the same time. They are also against these political traditions. For instance, we want a parliamentarian democracy, a good working parliamentarian democracy. What he wants is to be the president of Turkey. I mean, presidential system is not. We do not have good background about the presidential system in Turkey, but they are trying to change the system from parliamentarian system to presidential system, and after a referendum about the judiciary system, they tried to rule the judges. We do not want any ruled judges.
You talked about the economy. We know that the international organizations say that Turkey say more improve and development in economy increased, and now the all it means Turkey of today is not the Turkey than 10 years later, economically saying, and 5.1% of development, and how can answer for this?
You see, Turkey is not the same country as it is in 10 years ago. That's right. But me as an individual, what is my portion about this gross national product? We know that there are some billionaires. They became billionaires for the last 10 years. Can you show me some democratic countries in 10 years one guy became a billionaire? In democratic countries, this is not possible. There are billionaires over United States dollars, more than Germany, for instance, more than Japan. Can you explain this in a economic with a proper economic understanding? Now, somebody is earning too much, very few people, and most of people are doesn't get any portion about this gross national increase.
Politics became a business.
You see,
businessman intervened in the politics.
There are very good ties with some of the businessmen and the government. Very good ties, very close ties. And if you are against the government policies, the government is sending you some people who are trying to check all your records about your company results. So this is not a fair system.
How did CHP prepare the elections? Or what are your chances to?
There are 8 months to the elections. Yeah. The first elections will be in March 2014, and it will be the local elections. Yeah. I'm responsible from Istanbul. So what we are doing is trying to win this election, the metropolitan municipality election in Istanbul, because Istanbul is the most important city in Turkey, economically, culturally, and in numbers of the voters. The population of Istanbul is more or less 15 million, and there is more than 10 million voters in Istanbul. So if a government lose Istanbul in the local elections, it is not possible for them to rule national level. So what we are trying to do is to win the elections in 2014 about Istanbul, and then in 2015 there will be the general elections. In the general elections, to put a point to the end of the AKP rule in Turkey.
Okay. Well, I have to thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay.
You can write to me just your
I will give
card.
you my card.
It's better.